have severed diplomatic relations with Venezuela. According to sources, the US chief of mission will arrive in Caracas on Saturday. This marks the beginning of a phased plan to re-establish a US presence in Venezuela. The first phase involves sending a small team of temporary staff to the capital, where they will carry out essential functions like security and management. The team will work from a temporary facility while the embassy compound is upgraded. The goal is to eventually expand their duties to include consular, political and economic work. Professor Popovsky joins us once again. This, of course, comes after the capture of Nicolas Maduro, which occurred on the 3rd of this month. Delcy Rodriguez is now taking charge as interim president of Venezuela, a person which Donald Trump has said that negotiations and have been going well. How significant is this move for the future of the relations that the United States is opening its embassy there?
I think that we see clearly a normalization, which is excellent. By the way, a lot of people were predicting almost like a civil war in Venezuela, almost like a regional war, almost world war, after the arrest of Maduro. Nothing of that happened. Good news, the amnesty and the release of hundreds of political prisoners being kept in torturous conditions is a very good news. It shows also goodwill of the Delcy Rodriguez, the former vice president. Obviously, initially, she condemned the attack and she said that Maduro needs to be released, but that's an obvious first courteous reaction. And after that, she is in power and she takes good steps. She establishes relationship with United States. The amnesty follows. Her brother, by the way, is the Speaker of the National Assembly in Venezuela here. The law of amnesty comes. I see normalization here, despite all the, doomsayers who are thinking things in Venezuela will go from bad to worse. Nothing like that. We might even see elections at one point. Why not? With Maria Machado also being invited to the White House, the relationship between both the opposition leader and the current president looks good. So I'm optimistic here. Venezuela and the people of Venezuela should celebrate the end of Maduro. They should stop even thinking about Maduro and looking into the future, expecting normalization and possible elections. Like every other Latin American country went through difficult past, but at some point it gained its democracy, human rights, rule of law.
Where do you think the plans that Donald Trump, of course, floated, that the United States is going to run Venezuela fits in to this whole development?
Oh, he likes to run. He likes to be the leader of everything. He wants to be the leader of Gaza, the leader of the world, the Nobel Peace and all that. That's Donald Trump. But yes, Venezuela is a sovereign country. It has its own parliament, the National Assembly. It has its own president, current. I don't think President Trump, he can influence. He can put some demands and some conditions to Delcy Rodriguez, obviously. He does this to everybody else, every other leader in the world. But over time, I hope at least that the people of Venezuela will make that decisions. Then they should say, we don't want the Americans here. We are sovereign people. We are sovereign country. And that's the future. Trump says a lot of things, but 90% of those do not happen. He talked about Greenland. He talked in the first term about the wall with Mexico, and the Mexico will pay for that. None of those happens. Again, Donald Trump likes to talk and to be seen as a great leader, but nothing of this happens. In a sense, interestingly, ironically, the removal of Maduro can be seen as possibly the only beneficial action of this president so far, because yes, that opens the door, as I mentioned, for some positive change in Venezuela itself, maybe new elections and normalization and all of that. So the removal of Maduro, which was, by the way, planned already for a long time, for months, and apparently also happened with the help of some internal people, including possibly in the government. Some even conspiratorially say Delcy Rodriguez might have known about that. We have absolutely no proof or verification, but generally the more time goes, I think there is a more justification for the removal of Maduro from power. If that brings liberty and prosperity back to Venezuela, by the way, used to be the most prosperous Latin American country, and Maduro turned it into the most miserable one. Yeah. So it might work, although it's a violation of international law. I'm not saying anything different, but it might turn, that this violation of international law might turn into something positive long term.
Okay, Professor Popovsky, thank you very much, as always, for talking to us. It's always a pleasure to get your insights on these issues. We now move on to a related development, and Venezuela has slammed the United States for imposing what it calls punitive measures against Cuba. This comes after the US issued threats to impose tariffs on countries continuing to supply oil to Cuba. Venezuela's foreign ministry condemned the action, stating that the tariff order signed by US President Donald Trump targets countries maintaining legitimate trade relations with Havana. The Venezuelan government is calling for collective international action, urging countries to address the growing humanitarian consequences of these US actions, which they claim are hurting Cuba's ability to survive economically. Now we turn